Hi, this is Ashlen Clark interviewing
Betty Richards.
About Bird Haven. Ms. Richards, how did you come to work at Bird Haven?
Well, it was right after I got married, first job I had, and it was close to where I lived. I could walk. And also my husband's grandmother worked for the family. She did their cooking and cleaned their house. And that's how I got my job. And I think I worked probably maybe 2 years. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But then I had my first child, and I didn't work anymore for a while.
Okay. You said you lived close by, you could walk, so did you knew about Bird Haven before you started working there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it a place that before you started working there you visited a lot, or is it just something that you didn't really visit, or how was that?
Well, I visited with my husband's grandmother. I helped her sometimes to clean or whatever, and I knew what the place looked like and everything. Yeah.
Was it the family that lived there, was it just the family that owned Bird Haven, or were there other people that lived there?
No, it was just the family that owned Bird Haven. It was Mr. and Mrs. Clark, and Mrs. Clark was married before, and she had 2 sons, and the one son run the place. John Gray Paul was his name, and we called him Spiz.
Why did you call him that?
I don't know, he had a nickname. Someone gave him that nickname, I don't know why. And he always, when he'd come, he would stay at the house a lot, and come over and check on, what we were doing and everything. And he had 2 Cocker Spaniels. And every time we'd see them Cocker Spaniels, we knew he was coming.
Oh, that's really cute.
He was a good boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have a lot of interaction with him?
Well, yeah. And nothing like any parties or anything, but he was real friendly and nice. Mm-hmm.
So when you were working there, what was your role? What was your typical day like?
Well, it was about, I'd say 8 or 10 women in one building, and the men would make the things, and they would bring it to us, and we had to sand them, and then it had to be stained, and then it would have to be sanded again, and then a shellac or something put on it. And then from there it would go up to it was a post office back there then. Mm-hmm. It would go up to that building, and the orders would be carried out and packed and sent.
Okay. So when the packages were sent out, was it mostly local people that were ordering, or farther away?
No, it was a lot of different states. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So fairly big production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we made a lot of things. I had a lot of them, but I moved about 8 times since I've been married, and every time I moved, I guess I left something, or I gave it away. Mm-hmm. So I gave my minister a tray that he wanted. It had the label on.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. And he died, and we told his son to be sure and let us buy it back, but we didn't get it.
Oh. Shame when that happens. When you were working in the shop, so what specifically did you do with the
I helped to
pieces?
Sand the things off and stain them. And then we had a lady that she had it was a machine that she would spray the things. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you come to work there because it was someplace close, or because you had a connection, or what brought you to start working there?
Well, this was back in 1948 when I got married, and there wasn't too many jobs around in that area, and because it was close and they needed somebody, and I applied for it and I got it. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So how would you describe the environment, like within the community and within the shops? Was it a good place to work? Did you enjoy your time there?
Oh yes, and everybody that worked there was real friendly, and we all got along good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I mean, even though we worked, we still had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they mostly people that you knew outside of work from the community, or did you meet them at work? Were they like local people?
Most of them were local. Now some of them came from over Mount Clifton, which is not too far from Bayse, and well, now the one man lives in Edinburgh, but he didn't live there when he worked there. But I think most of them were local. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What kind of impact on the community would you say that Birdhaven had, since it employed a lot of local people? Was it positive for the community?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it gave people work and make a living. And I worked back then. I made $80 a month working there. They only paid. I don't think they paid every week. It was like maybe every 2 weeks.
Okay. So for the people who weren't local and like main community members, how did they react to Birdhaven? Did like people come visit from outside, or how did Birdhaven interact with further away?
Well, back then, Bryce, they called it Bryce Hillside Cottages, was open, and a lot of people, that was busy all summer long. And of course, people that came there and to Orkney also would, visit local places. Yeah, and I'm sure that he sold a lot of things right there.
Okay, so you could actually buy things from Birdhaven rather than ordering them and it being mailed to you?
Yeah, and the workers could buy, anything. I can't remember if we got a discount or not, but I had quite a few things. I had a magazine cradle, and I had a sawbuck table, but I don't know what happened to those. I gave some of them to my mother-in-law. And I had trays, and we made Lazy Susans, but I didn't want. But I got a few things. I got those little stools and some trays, and we made salad bowls and forks and the little bowls to go with it. Those were a good seller.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good item. They sold good.
So it was like the most common thing ordered, like the most popular items?
Probably the salad bowls.
Okay.
Because it was a big bowl, and then the little ones, and then the salad fork and spoon. And it was all made out of wood.
Wow.
And of course, it was instructions with that how to do it, because you couldn't do too much water on that wood.
Right. So what kind of instructions would come along with that?
Well, like every once in a while to oil, just your regular oil that you use to cook with, to maybe just clean it with that and dry it good.
Okay. Cool. We had a little bit of background information that we were given, and it talked about how some of the items that were made represented like the heritage of people in the community. Did you see that represented through the stuff that was made?
Well, I don't know what year Birdhaven really started, but they made toys and also puzzles. Now, we weren't making those when I started. Okay. I never saw any of those. Okay. They'd already sold them all and changed over to the other different things that we were making.
Okay, so they didn't make all of that their entire span. They kind of transitioned into the other products.
Yeah, they changed from the puzzles and the toys and to more things that were, I guess, more useful. Now, I don't know who changed it or why, and I don't really know. Excuse me.
Okay.
Good.
Hello? Can I call you back? I'm being interviewed. Yeah. 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 All right. Bye. That was my minister.
Oh, that's fine.
Now, did that upset?
No, we can be cut out and we can just
Oh,
put
you,
it right together.
will you hear what I said on the phone or anything?
No, I couldn't hear. No, I couldn't hear.
Okay. I mean, I hope it didn't mess you up.
No. We can, when we put it on the computer, we can take out parts.
Oh,
So we
okay.
can, if you want us to take that out, we can just take it out and put it right back in. How did having this job at Birdhaven as your first job, how did that affect future jobs you had, or just?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I just learned to work because I was young, and I don't know, it was just nice, and everybody got along good, and everything is sure is different now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see, from there, I didn't work for a good while then because I had 4 children, and I didn't work till I had the last one. And then I worked at Bayse, and I worked at a apple place where we graded apples. And I don't know, I just learned to work.
Yeah. So, but it was a good experience.
Oh
as a
yeah,
first job.
oh yeah. It was nice. I mean, everybody got along good, and we just had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Good.
In fact, the one man you're going to interview, we picked on him a lot.
Really? Why did you pick on him?
Oh, just nice. It wasn't, it wasn't mean or anything, but he really was good to get along with. Yeah, I still once in a while talk to him.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So are you still, you said talk to him, but are you in contact with the people you work with?
Excuse me again.
You're fine.
Hello? Betty? I'm being interviewed now. I'll call you back. All right. That was a lady from my church.
Popular woman. Do you still keep in contact with the people you worked with? I know you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't. I talk to him once in a while, and once in a while I get to see him, but I don't visit much anymore. I guess I'm gotten lazy, and I'm old, and I just like to stay at home.
Yeah, that's fair.
But once in a while I do talk to him on the phone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So even after you stopped working, you said you stopped to have kids. Did you stay local? Did you stay involved with the community?
Yeah, I stayed local for a good while, and then we moved to Maryland and lived down there. I think it was like 7 or 9 years, and then I didn't like the city. So I moved back, and I lived up there for a couple years, and then we built this house, and this was my home place. That big house down there was where I was born and raised.
Oh, wow.
And so we built this, and we moved back here. And I worked up at that country store that's closed for, I don't know, probably close to 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I stayed in the area.
Yeah.
And I go to that church up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see a difference in the local area once Birdhaven closed and stopped providing jobs there?
No, I don't think so, because a lot of people had cars, and they would, go a distance to work. And a lot of people even go down to the city from our area to work every day.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we were talking to one of our other interviewees, they mentioned how after Birdhaven closed, there was kind of an in-between period, but then in more recent years, there's kind of been an uptick in the interest in the items that were created at Birdhaven. Have you noticed anything about that?
You mean since the new owners took over and bought the place, and they started having a lot of animals and ducks and chickens and stuff?
Okay.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the people that bought it, it was the woman's grandmother that was from this area, and she and her husband, I think it was, had a little resort on past Birdhaven. It was called Shenandoah Springs. And so, see, it all kind of dates back to, her grandparents and parents were from this area that own it now.
Oh. So have you been back down there since it closed?
One time. Mm-hmm. After, let's see, yeah, I've been there since they took over. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it's a big difference in what now that they have it, because they did a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they moved the big house that Mr. and Ms. Clark lived in. Now, I haven't been back since they moved that. I'd like to see where it is. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a beautiful place, and it was a lot of land, and it was a couple houses on it.
So were those houses occupied at the time?
No, maybe one of them was, but no.
Okay. When you went back, were all the old buildings still there? Did they still have stuff in them?
In fact, they said when they closed, it was a lot of, like the bowls and other things that were made was still in there that they had never got rid of.
Oh.
Now, I don't know what they did with it, if they still have it or what.
Yeah. Do you know why Birdhaven closed?
No. Mr. John Gray Paul moved to Harrisonburg. Well, let's see, I guess his mother and his stepfather probably died, and then I guess he didn't want to keep it up. I really don't know. I can't remember. But he went to Harrisonburg, and he was a lawyer.
Oh.
I think he's still living. I'm not sure.
Okay. Interesting.
Mr. Polk could probably tell you, the man that worked there too that's still living. He could probably tell you if Mr. John Gray Paul's still living. I can't remember if he is or not.
Okay.
I think if he is, he'd be pretty old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you have some of the products from Birdhaven. Do you know, has there been a bigger interest in those items since they're no longer being produced with
Well,
other people?
I think anybody that sees them, some of them come up at auctions. We have an auction every week down in Edinburgh, and I'm sure some of those come up in auctions, and yeah, people are interested in it. Now that one right there, my daughter's friend gave to her, and it's a name on the back of who owned it.
Oh.
And I guess it was probably bought at a sale. And what it is, I don't know. If it's supposed to be, yeah. If it's supposed to be a bowl, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Maybe I need to take that down to Mr. Polk and let him look at it. See if he can tell me what it is, because he worked there before I started.
Okay. Awesome.
Do we get that?
No, we can get those. Let's see. Were there any other things that you had come to mind that you remember, or even just like positive stories or anything about Birdhaven?
Well, the only thing else, in the ladies, it was like about everybody was relation. It was two sisters. In fact, it was two bunches, two 4 sisters. That 2 of them were, you know, sisters. It was Hazel and Pearl Ryman were sisters, and then Lena and can't remember her sister's name. You know, it was like family worked there, and all of us knew everybody. You know, we were all friends, and it was just nice. And I think about today, if I had to go apply for a job, I don't do computers. I don't know how I'd get one.
So a lot different than
Oh,
jobs
yeah.
now.
Of course, that's been, well, I'm 85, and that I was probably 18 when or maybe 19 when I got that job. Yeah. It's a lot different from now when it was back then. A lot different. In fact, people helped each other more back then than they do now.
Yeah. So we also were told about just like the many different types of equipment that was there. Were you mostly just using the sander? Because you talked about sanding. Did you use any of the other equipment?
No, no. We did it by hand, but then, like I said, they had a machine to spray the bowls with the whatever they used. I forget what it was. You know, to make so that especially the bowls, so they wouldn't. You could use them.
Yeah.
But they sprayed everything. I mean, it was some kind of finish they put on them.
Okay.
And they had the one item that it was really, really pretty was a cobbler's bench coffee table.
Oh.
It was probably that big, but it was expensive.
I'm sure.
But we had a lot of little parts, you know, and it was really a lot to do to get it that you was able to sell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot of work to it,
Yeah.
but it was nice. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
definitely high quality objects.
Mm-hmm. And we had tables. I had folding tables, and we had a lot of stuff. Right now, I can't. I wish I'd kept a diary. More than once, I get mad at myself I didn't. But it was quite a few items that they made, and that Lazy Susan was a good seller. Mm-hmm. Now, what did you say this is going to go into?
This will eventually end up in the, I think, Shenandoah Library archives.
Oh, okay.
The people who own Birdhaven now, or who kind of got this kick started, they wanted to find out more about it.
They come to our church once in a while.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
See, her grandmother, we did our ramp in her memory when she died, because we got a lot of people sent a lot of money in her memory,
Mm-hmm.
and she's buried in our cemetery.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So do you know the new owners fairly well?
Well, I've met them. They've been to our church a couple times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Yeah.
Have you met them?
No, not yet.
They're young. Or to me, they're young. Not as young as you, but they're young.
I think you answered all of them really well. You kind of combined some of my questions together. The people that worked there that were local, do they still live in the area? Do you know? I know you said you keep in contact with one of the men, but
He lives in Edinburgh, and the lady that worked there too, she worked there, I guess, after I quit. She lives in Woodstock.
okay.
And we had one lady, when she left and went to the bank. She worked in the bank for I don't know how many years. So a lot of them went different places and got jobs in. Yeah.
Were there any stories you had about working there? Things that, I don't know. Because I just really anything that you can think of that we haven't touched on, even just small things.
Well, I got one, but I better not tell it.
Definitely tell it.
Well, I told you that our boss had two Cocker Spaniels. Mm-hmm. Well, we were allowed a break in the morning, the break in the afternoon, and also we had, I think it was a half hour for lunch. And we could always see when he was coming because those dogs would be ahead of him. Of course, we didn't take advantage of him. I mean, we did our breaks like we were supposed to and everything, but it was kind of a joke, you know, that when we see those dogs, he was behind someplace. Yeah, but he was nice. He was a very nice boss.
So, at Birdhaven, what was it? How was it kind of set up? Was it in like open fields? Was it lots of trees around? Were the buildings close together? What was?
Yeah, the
like,
buildings were all close. Yeah, you all haven't been back there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should go back there. Yeah, the buildings were all like, you know, together, mm-hmm. And the post office was back there at that time too. And the house was kind of over in the field from the buildings, and it was a stream run through. It was a beautiful place. And one couple that worked there, they lived on a house across the stream, right close to the building where we worked.
Wow. So people lived real close.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it was another house down further in the woods. It's a lot of woods and around there. And it was a house that was built real funny. It had the doors were double. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the Dutch. Remember, mm-hmm. You probably remember how the Dutch, when you went to school, you learned that stuff. How they had their doors. Well, it had a door like that, and but it sat empty for years and years and years. I don't know what they did with it now. If they repaired it and somebody lives in it or what, I don't know. My son goes down there right often. Him and another man from the community, and I mean, they talk to the people that own it. And, yeah.
Okay.
Now you're not going to have all this on.
Well, we'll cut part. Yeah. Yeah, don't. And if there's anything that you want us to go back and cut out, we have a release form that you can just make note of that there.
So you'll send me a copy of what this sounds like?
If you want a copy, we can get you a copy.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, we can definitely get you a copy. I had something else.
I see Sam's made a friend.
Yeah, I've been playing with him this whole time. He's really adorable. I wanted to try to keep like the meowing out of it, so I just started petting him. Didn't work.
So you said you were born and raised right up the road?
Mm-hmm. Right down there in that next house.
Okay.
My daughter lives there now, and of course she put a big addition to it.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's nice, but now she wishes she wouldn't because she lives by herself.
Okay.
But when she did that, she was married and had he had 2 children. They were small, and she did that so that everybody would have a bedroom and everything. But now they're all gone.
Okay.
So she's by herself, and it's a big house to keep up for heat and stuff.
Yeah. So you said that the owners of Birdhaven, they lived on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Were they involved in the day-to-day a lot, or were they kind of more, you guys just ran everything?
Oh, you mean back when we were...
Yeah.
Yeah, they lived on the property.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Mr. and Ms. Clark, they didn't come over and check on anything. Spiz did it all the time, her son. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what Mr. Clark, if he was in some kind of government or what, and they probably retired back there. I don't know really the first story. You can talk to Mr. Polk. He can probably tell you when it started and everything. I only learned after I got married, and because his grandmother was working there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a lot of wood trees and stuff
Yeah.
on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where they got the wood for the products? Was actually from their property there?
You know what? I don't know, but I guess they did.
Okay.
Now back that road is some houses built. You came by there. You probably saw where it said Bird Haven, or
I may have.
Right?
Yeah, I think.
Right in the middle was like a flower arrangement, and then it was a sign.
Okay.
I think it said Bird Haven. Well, back that road is where it is, and I don't know if they own all that now, where those houses are built or what. But I know it's some houses built down in there.
Okay.
People from the city, came up and bought the lots and built.
Yeah. Okay. So when you said people would come and stay at the cottages nearby,
Mm-hmm.
Would they just come and kind of walk around? Were there any, you said they could buy, were there gift shops? Like how did the visitors kind of interact with what was going on in day-to-day work?
Well, my father-in-law drove a taxi and brought people out from Mount Jackson. Back then the train run and the bus also. And he would bring people out, and they would stay all summer. And then the Bryces had transportation that they would take them places to see different things in the community. And they had activities all the time. They had dances. They had my husband set up pins for the bowling alley, and they'd have picnics and all kinds of stuff like that. It was, to keep them entertained. Because back then it wasn't like it is now. I mean, you could go. People didn't have cars like they do now. In fact, when I grew up, it was only one car in this area. The rest of us walked to church. But it was good. I mean, it was good for us. One family would start, and then we'd keep falling in, and all of us walked together to church.
So it was a tight-knit community then?
Yeah. It's really changed, though. I mean, we have a lot of people now that, come from the city and different places and built. And I used to know everybody that lived around here, but now I don't.
The Bryce Hill cottages, when did those show up? When were they built?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. It was before I ever went up there. But now the cottages are all closed, and they have what they call the Bryce Hill now. They have condos and townhouses on them, but there's no recreation or nothing anymore. They don't run it anymore. It's just people, just private people that come up and stay, like maybe the weekend or when they have a vacation or whatever. And then of course they have things down at Bryce Resort that they can do.
Yeah. So do you know if there was, once those were built, was there a big difference in people coming in and visiting since there were those cottages?
Oh yeah, it must be. I believe that at the post office now it's 500 boxes, and back then it was probably. I think Bayse was 2 people.
Oh wow.
Now it's really grown up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to have a post office down here. Of course, we'd have to walk to it to get our mail, which was about probably a mile.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a store and a post office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Trying to you covered so many of them. Really helpful. So I know you said that the people working there could buy the different products. Was that a common thing for people to buy the things they built?
Yeah, I think everybody that worked there probably had bought some items. Yeah, yeah. I can't remember. I don't think we got a cut on anything. We paid whatever the price was. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of them have probably a lot more than I got. I didn't buy everything that we made, but I did have that magazine cradle, and then that table that was, what did they call that? It was real strong. It was a table, you put in front of your couch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you were working, was it like an hourly job?
Yeah.
That you worked?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we worked, I guess, was like 8 to 4 or something like that. But we only got paid twice a month, I think. We didn't get paid every week.
And then I know you said when you were working there they had switched away from the toys and the puzzles. Do you know if that switch kind of increased production, if people were happy with that switch?
I don't have no idea about that, because it was, when I started that, they weren't doing any of that, the puzzles or anything.
Okay.
Now, like I say, Mr. Polk can probably tell you about that, because he worked there before I did.
And you said the men and the women were kind of separate because you were doing different types of jobs. So what types of things would the men be doing versus what you guys were
Well, like
doing?
cutting out the things, and then one of them would glue them together, and I guess, like you said, I don't know, but I imagine some of them had to probably cut the timber or whatever or I don't know if they bought the lumber, or I can't remember about that. They might have bought the lumber, and then the men had to cut out everything, and that was their job.
Okay. And we kind of talked about this some already, but after Birdhaven closed, I know you said people had cars and they were driving elsewhere, but was it something that people were disappointed about it closing? They kind of wish it had stayed open, or how did people view that?
Yeah, I think they would like for it to stay open, yeah. But I'm pretty sure Mr. and Mrs. Clark both died, and then Spiz was by himself, and he didn't want to